Welcome, everybody. Yes, I am not Brian Truman. Most of you came thinking that you would see my better half, Brian, but he is actually in the air. Don't fret, though. I've been featured on many, many podcasts, and actually, I am the managing broker and the managing director for SVN Accel Commercial Real Estate. So technically, I'm Brian's boss. I am so happy to be here today. I am actually also one of the coordinators for this meetup that you're participating in for real estate investors of Nashville. This is the multifamily meetup, and welcome to you who are online. We're happy to have you here. I am excited to have a speaker today who I've known for probably not quite a year. It's been about 9 months or so.
Something like that.
So I'm really happy to have him and getting to know him and having him come to some of the events and just networking. And but before we get started, I have to say, make sure that you understand we are not to be held accountable for investment advice, that this is the RIN disclaimer. We are here for educational purposes only. You are responsible for your own learning and for your own investments. Insert the fine print here. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play those on television. I love to interview people, and I'm super curious about that. And he is an expert in his own personal life. And we're going to talk about those kinds of things. But as far as what will or will not work for you, that is completely on your own. If you are here for the first time, Real Estate Investors of Nashville is one of the largest investment clubs in the South. And in fact, I think it is probably in the top one or two. It has over 26 events monthly, which is pretty impressive. So if you would like to learn more about Real Estate Investors of Nashville, we have our representative here up in front. But if you join Real Estate Investors of Nashville, you can participate in their main event, which is coming up this next Monday on the 12th. It'll be, they have a newsletter, a private Facebook, networking, and vendors and contractors, alternative lending, and all kinds of wisdom from seasoned investors when you get to know them. And what I think is one of my favorite parts about it is that I don't know if you knew this or not, but they are actually a nonprofit. They're a 506c nonprofit organization. So we really are here to help each other learn and grow. And Real Estate Investors of Nashville shares SVN Accel Commercial Real Estate's passion for helping people learn and grow and how to have personal financial freedom. And so I think that's pretty awesome that they have allowed for us to be the multifamily facilitators for their multifamily education. And of course, Brian and Kunal do a great job with that, but I am also always involved in one way or another. So today, Steve, I want you to tell us a little bit about you. Give us your short bio, and then I'll dig into that a little bit deeper.
That's good. All right, short bio. Steve Outlaw, live here in Franklin, Tennessee. I grew up in Eastern North Carolina, back in a time when there was no internet, no cell phones. We walked uphill in the snow both ways to school barefooted. It was great. But no, seriously, we didn't have internet or cell phones. But I moved here in 2000 for the mortgage banking business. I started in mortgage banking in the mid-90s, working for Chase in Charlotte. That brought me here with a different company in 2000 to start our mortgage brokerage. We opened that up at Century City up here and by the airport. Started there with three of us that moved here from Charlotte. And we built that up we had 30 loan officers here, 25 in Louisville, and doing anywhere from 40 to 50 million a month in loan volume, because we caught the perfect time of the refi boom that they talked about. You had escalating prices rapidly and rates kept dropping. So we had repeat business. So that's what brought me here. And then around 2005, I had a lot of different clients, repeat customers that were actually just buying a lot of investment real estate. I'd done one investment property in the past in the mid-90s. That was through a Carlton Sheets late night infomercial that I bought on audio cassette and video cassette. And I was in college delivering for Domino's Pizza and bought a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhome. And it was a fully non-qualifying, fully assumable loan that I didn't even know existed until I listened to those audio cassettes. And so I signed 2 sheets of paper. I owned a townhome. I delivered pizza. So that was my first taste in real estate. Loved it. And then in '05 here, I just saw the people doing a lot of loan. They were doing a lot of properties and they were giving out money. Countrywide had their pay option arm. Lenders were basically just giving away money to anybody that would take it. You've been in the industry a while. You probably know this. So that decided that's what I want to do. So I started buying properties. We were doing some fix and flips, and we wholesale. We did owner financing. We bought owner financing. We sold them owner finance wise. We wholesaled. We were wholesaling 2 or 3 properties a week at one point. Just love real estate, and then got into commercial real estate a few years back, and love that. And so really I've done a ton of different things between now and then, but got interested in multifamily. I've always been interested in it since I started commercial real estate, but then I this past year decided I want to go just really full-time into learning what multifamily was all about. So
you have had that background in numbers with the mortgage. So one of my favorite things about being involved with all these different groups because we offer our own learning series as well, that is also free. Part of the thing that I like about that is we interview people from all different walks of life. There is not like a single profile of real estate investor, right? That's probably my favorite thing, that if you have money, if you have willingness to learn, if you can make the connections that you need to, because I say that investing in commercial real estate or investing in real estate, period, is a team contact sport. That means you've got to have a really good team around you to be able to help you. Most of us, maybe you did it with your small first one, right? But even then, you probably had to have somebody coaching you because it was your infomercial. You had to gain your education from somewhere. That's right. So what were your secret sauces when you first started out? When I was a little girl, I only used my dolls for the scale for the buildings that I built them. And I was the queen fort builder. So people ask me, where did you get your start? And I was like, because I built the best forts. And all the kids in the neighborhood wanted to be part of that fort club because my forts were the best. And so I had this love affair from a really young age with buildings. So what possessed you? Mortgages, people don't usually wake up and go, I want to be a mortgage officer today. It's often a job that people fall into and then end up loving. And then when you exited, so tell us a little bit about that and what motivated you to get involved in mortgages, and then where did you go from there?
Gotcha. Well, mortgages, that's a funny one. I actually was involved in network marketing, so direct sales. And I had started with a company that was in telecom in North Carolina where I lived, and it took off like a rocket. So here I was, I think I made $18,000 my third month in the business. Said, this is awesome. I'm young. I want to move to Charlotte, big city there. So I bought a BMW, moved to Charlotte, and got an apartment in a nice gated thing. The next month, the company got shut down. So I was like, well, that was stupid. So yeah, exactly. That's why the money was so good and so fast, because they weren't doing stuff above board, I guess. So the attorney general shut them down. And here I was with a BMW and a new lease on an apartment for a year. So I saw some
necessity. Been mentioned.
Answered an ad about hiring for loan officers and saw that. And at the time, I was naive enough to think I went in there and talked to them. And when I got involved in mortgage business, you could get 10 points on the front and 10 points on the back in yield spread premium. Those quarter basis point bumps. So theoretically, you can make 20% on a loan. So as soon as the guy's telling me that, I mean, my eyes are as big as saucers. Like, holy cow! If I did $1 million worth of loans, are you kidding me? $200,000 on $1 million loan. So I'm just like, of course, nobody's ever going to pay that, But at the time, I didn't. It's like, okay, this is awesome. So there I started in the mortgage business.
Okay, and so you did that. So then, what enticed you to leave it?
To leave it was it's a transactional. It's just doing the same thing over and over. And I just got tired of it.
Yeah.
And just
becomes the story I hear a lot.
Same thing day in, day out. Now, we were running the company, but you're doing that. You have brand new loan officers. That's a revolving door too. We literally could hire a bartender at Fridays and teach him how to make $100,000 his first year with no problem. And then once he's making $100,000, then he's, looks and somebody else is offering a little better split or maybe a half point more or something. So it was a never ending. It was a revolving door.
Right.
So it was tiresome. So I wanted to, I always knew about the real estate side. So that's what I wanted to do, was invest in real estate.
Well, I think that with mortgages too, the commoditization of it, but yes, there are new things you have to learn because the government keeps changing, but you learn those pretty quickly. And then the process is just, plug and play, rinse and repeat. And so for people who are entrepreneurial, they crave another challenge, right? So what was your first big investment after mortgage? Or did you do stuff during that period?
Stuff while I was in the mortgage business.
Okay, so talk to us about that.
Which is a big key to remember. Don't just say I'm going to be a full-time real estate investor and quit your job. That's dumb, okay? Because you need employment. It helps. You don't necessarily need it, but it certainly helps to have a stable, steady income. Yes, indeed, depending on how you're going to buy your property. So fortunately, I didn't just quit and go do that, but just saw another ad for Ron LeGrand was coming to town to do a thing out at the Gaylord Opryland. He was teaching his fix and flip, little program he has. So I was like, me and a buddy went and checked that out and loved what he was saying. So sure enough, jumped into that program too. And within a few weeks had our first property. So that was great. And Perry, Perry Keenan, Jordan knows him. Perry was the guy I went to that seminar with. But I just always wanted to be, that's how I would build wealth. And then some of the investors I saw we were doing loans for. I mean, they were sitting here, they're buying $300,000 and $400,000 houses up in Hendersonville as investment properties and fixing them and flipping them.
You're like, I paid that for mine, and they're buying that as an investment. What's the matter?
Yeah, I made $6,000 on your loan, and he made $150,000 when he sold it. There's a little bit of a scale difference there. So that's really that.
Wanted to be a participant.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with your first fix and flip, what were your least favorite things, and what was your? And sometimes those are the biggest lessons. So maybe talk about that, because we're going to have all different levels, because that's usually the gateway drug for people who start into multifamily.
Who's owned at least one residential investment property? Okay. All right. The worst thing was really not having a true system and stuff. So the work that got done was right here, and that trying to work, because still had a full-time job. Yeah. So me and my partner did most of ourselves in there, in the evening time, ripping out carpet and doing this, and that's what you had to do, So that's probably the worst thing is just doing that avenue. Yep. Yep. But you may make money on it and just move on to the next one. So that's the key is just you got to start somewhere. Fortunately, I did have the system of Ron LeGrand's system, so I refer to those CDs. At the time, they've advanced from cassette tapes to CDs by this point at least. So that was nice. You listen to them call. No.
Just
yeah, beta VHS. No, they don't. What the hell is that? So yeah, it was. But that was those lessons are just the work and work with your hands. Not that that's a bad thing at all. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, we were in a position we could do that and knew how to do some of that stuff. But that was that's the biggest drawback to it. But you can't pay somebody to do that, then
So when did you get lured into the buy and hold?
I'm still not completely lured into that, to be honest with you, just yet.
That's okay. That's a good.
It's more the velocity of money for me and the way I invest now.
Sure.
So that avenue, I'm still not 100% on the buy and hold strategy, especially from residential. I never really was. I didn't want to be a landlord at all. I just wasn't. That wasn't my jam. Wasn't my thing. I've been, unfortunately, been in a situation where I was a landlord and I've gotten the calls and had to deal with this or that. Wasn't a fan. So
Yeah,
you deal with some crazy people out there, but the 08 made me a landlord, the market tanking. So,
sure.
Yeah, that forced me into the landlord. But so that was another lesson. It's like, I don't want to do that. This really stinks, So that was a good one. Best things I learned from it is you get those little blocks of money that you can do something else with. I still got a photocopy of the first check there, that cashed on that was $28,000 on the first property we flipped for a little house in Antioch. I was like, well,
that had to have felt really.
Yeah, it was fantastic. That's just it was a great feeling. And we're motivated too to get that because the program we bought into, if you did a deal in your first 90 days, they refunded your cost of the program. I was like, we're going to make that happen.
Done.
And it was done. So we, sure enough, sent them that check and got our little, and that was only like $400. It wasn't, but it was still the principle of it all.
Yeah,
just do it. If you do it in this amount of time, then
I am that guy.
That's right.
Yeah. So when you took those classes, did you immediately envision yourself? I mean, you were like, "That's me," or did it take some convincing for you to?
Oh no, that was me. And I've done lots of different classes. Yeah, done. Yeah,
The Kool-Aid was drawn.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because it just made sense. And, that was a 28,000 is for some that's a lot. For some it's not. I went out to dinner at Ruth's Chris, did some other things, pretty much blew it, The things you do on a first deal. I was still making money at the bank, so we were fine financially. This was, it was extra money, yeah.
So then it was like, okay, the watch, the dinner.
Absolutely. Have a good time,
The tickets to the
I was
game.
only 14 of that 28, so it wasn't like I was going to go out, and invest in wasn't going to buy my dream home in Florida or anything.
Season tickets to the Titans if you want.
Well, my company had those, on the 50-yard line. So, yeah, absolutely. So I wasn't worried about that, but yeah.
Okay. So what was your primary motivator then?
The money,
the game and the money.
I like the doing the deals. That's why we wholesaled a lot. I like the going out and working with real estate agents and building a relationship to get the pocket listings. That was fantastic. I got something you don't, you know what I mean? There's that more internal. I didn't do that, outside, but it was getting to know that, not having to keep doing the same thing to get deals. So then when you've done enough of those things, it's like you built the relationships. They call you with the stuff.
Well, so let's talk about relationships then. For you, what was the progression of the relationships? Who did you first bring in and go, I can't do this myself, or I need help? And it doesn't have to be a partner. I mean, just who's the first person you hired to do stuff for you? And then where did it go from there?
I was a contractor. His name was Mariano. So he was, he's actually Argentinian, but he had a whole crew of guys that he worked with, and we had them come in and do work on one of the houses, and they did a great job, super fast, did great work. So we were able to go ahead and find and leverage that and build a relationship with him to where we were using him for all our stuff, and we were pretty much the only people he used. That was right here.
Oh, he was here local.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
mostly East Nashville, which I wish I had every one of those houses back, just so you know.
What about, so you had a partner already that you were doing this with? And how did you form that partnership?
I knew, he was one of the first people I met not long after I moved here in 2000. So Perry Keenan, Jordan, I met Jordan through Perry. So yeah, I'd met him through some social clubs, organizations, and, just knew him before that. And
did you recognize him as a fellow investor? How did you figure that out?
We just, we were just good friends, and my wife, I'm not even sure we were exactly married at the time. We were pretty close to maybe engaged. My fiance and his wife were friends, and so we all four went to the first day of the conference, together when I invited him to come. So then we talked about it. We can do this. And Perry is he does the things that I didn't like to do, which is a great compliment. Like, he's not afraid to talk to anybody. He will go knock on doors. He'll go do everything like that. He loves that conversation, doing that. So he would go out and talk and do a lot of that networking side of it. Because once again, I was still working, at the mortgage company. So I had employees, so I couldn't just, skate away all the time.
Well, that is pretty important what you just said. You find someone who fills in your gaps, right? Yeah. Because, for anybody that knows Brian, well, who doesn't know Brian, but he is a master networker. He's really good at that. And I have to be drugged, kicking and screaming. I'm actually pretty good at it when I have to, but it's not my jam. And I am really good at doing all of the operational stuff and creating companies. That's like my jam, right? So we both need each other so he can be Mr. Nashville with the face, right? And then I can be the person that actually executes and makes it happen, and then actually has the vision of where it needs to go, the next step, right? And I think you have to have that.
You do.
So you had your partner who filled in your gaps. You had your contractor. Then who was next?
Probably it's a great question. Banking relationship, was built with a lender and a banker, because it started out with one.
You need a banker.
Well, we were in a mortgage business. It was you still had all the guidelines and stuff. So we got with a local bank and a small bank, and got a loan officer there that worked with us.
I'm teasing you.
Oh, I know.
Everybody.
You got to have the funds. Unless you got them yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're self-funded.
I think she funded the first loan we did with her was probably $150,000. And at some point right before the 2008 thing, I probably had 4 or 5 loans going out at the same time with her for $300,000 or $400,000 each. So, at least for the ones we had financed through the bank there. So, we built that relationship of, you just call and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. And I said, oh, great, send what you think the after repair value is going to be. Our contractor would draft up a work order or a statement of work, what he's going to do and how much it's going to cost. We sent her that, and they funded the from the loan to cost, and so we very rarely had anything out of pocket.
So how did you go? So did you ramp up from your first fix and flip? When did you do multiple ones at the same time? At what point did you go, I'm ready?
When we had a contractor.
So getting that was a key, somebody that you could trust, that you knew their work, that he could give you, he had a crew, but he also could tell you that after that cost, after completion, what that was going to all look like. That is pretty critical.
And we didn't just run right out and do that once he's working on the first place, because you want to see that he can finish the job, because I made that mistake on a different property, with a friend who was a painter, but wanted to be a contractor. So he said, hey, let me run this project for you. And, I can do it. I was, about 4 months into it. And it's like,
no,
it's not working. Yeah, you can't do this. It was one of the biggest houses we had bought. It's 5,500 square feet over in Westmead, had a tennis court, lit tennis court. It was on a 1.7 acres, beautiful house. And I was like, dude, you are killing me.
Because of the time,
literally.
Because of the speed of money.
Yeah, exactly. And just get the work done. I mean, I really, honestly, that was a pocket listing that should have been an insane amount of money to make on it. But because of the drag, the costs and everything, and, just, like I said, just realized real quick. So I had Mariano come in and, clean that mess up. But, that was, once again, work with friends, just be careful who you're doing a business with. Friends are friends,
There's friends, and then there's friends that are professionals.
Which he had painted some, don't get me wrong, he painted a lot of those properties for us. Mariano wasn't a painter, so he did a great job at that. But that's where he should have stayed in his lane, and I should have left him in his lane.
So what were the most amount of houses or flips that you had going at one time?
Probably 5, I would say, and it got to a point. These are $700,000 properties in that range. And then we had also a wholesale. We created a wholesale system, which was great at the time. You could do. You can't do it as easily now. But we had software that would just send offers out, and we had a guy who ran that. So it would just fire out lowball offers to real top listings all day long. And so we were wholesaling 2 to 3 houses a week at $3,000 a pop. So we just get under contract, $100 earnest money deposit, sell the contract to somebody else and let them close.
So at what point did you quit your day job?
We did probably about a year and a half into it, when we flipped some properties, made some money there, saw there was a much more future there, and really just so tired of the mortgage, that mortgage business. I'd gone back into it after the fact, after 2008 some, but yeah, that was just when I made enough money where I could have done, lived off that if I wanted to, but just kept flipping,
So when you deal with your partner, and I'm not asking you to share anything confidential unless you want to,
my business partner, right?
Yes, but not just your business partner, but also, did you do any syndications, and were you straight partnership with your partner, and do you and your partner act as, investing in, how joined at the hip are you with your partner when you're doing other things? Do you do things without that guy, or So can you give us a little bit more of an idea how you worked the dynamics of that?
Yeah, there wasn't, because sometimes you're at a stage with the properties there. It's working, but you have contractors working on this. So he had stuff that he wanted to work on that was maybe out from where he lives in Pleasant View. So he's going out to Clarksville and stuff like that. I didn't want to deal with that stuff. And I had some stuff I was doing down in Franklin. So that's why, we were just, as long as it didn't commingle or mesh, we had our own LLC. So everything around that LLC was one, and everything else was just did separately. So he had his own, and I had mine.
So with your cold calling, was that your deal where you had your caller, or your person that was working?
Ours was right through our company.
Okay, so you agreed that everything was joint from that.
It was 50-50,
So when did you start doing any, have you done syndications, and if so, did you start as an LP? Did you start as a GP? Talk about that.
Okay. The how I got into multifamily was I like commercial real estate. I've done a commercial deal in the past, which was from another seminar, to be honest with you. I signed up for Scott Shields' 3-day boot camp in Chicago. It was $5,000, most expensive one I'd done to date. And I was like, so I went up there, got the systems, things from him, and came back and just started looking at properties, and ended up buying a car dealership at an auction and converted it to medical office space.
Wow.
So yeah, it's adaptive use, highest and best use. And ironically enough, the bank who he had a relationship with, my partner Perry, he had a relationship with, they actually did the whole finance the whole thing. It was their loan. They were foreclosing for the car dealer. So they said, if you guys will buy it, we'll even fund the rehab costs if you want to fix it. So they funded everything, and we formed a corporation, put $100,000 in between 4 partners, and created some medical office space. And that was my first commercial deal, and that worked out great. And I just love that scale aspect of that versus residential. Residential is kind of like doing mortgages to me. I mean, it's transactional. If you don't do another property or flip it, then you're not making money. You know, it's you're only good as the last deal, so it doesn't pay residually. You can be a landlord, but you still, you know, it's not scalable that way. You know, you can build it up one house at a time, or you can, you want to get to 100 doors that way, great, or you can just buy one property that has 100 doors.
So what are your goals? Where do you want to go? 5 years, 10 years?
Honestly, I'm still trying to decide that.
Steve is trying to decide what he wants to be when he finally grows up. Is that how it works?
Family, exactly.
Yeah.
And so last 2022, I keep saying last now, but technically it was 2022 because we're in 24 now, decided I want to do multifamily. So I decided to get the education. You got to do that. Listen to, I don't know if you guys heard the RE Mentors, Dave Lindahl, they're running ads all over everywhere. Right. End of 2022 for the Nashville market. So I went to he had events all over the Nashville area. I went to one at Franklin, down at the Marriott there. Probably a 90-minute, 2-hour presentation. They were selling a 3-day boot camp for $997, $1,000. They were coming in January to do. So I was like, well, we were just literally talking about this. Me and my wife were, we need to diversify some funds from the stock market and the market because it's such up and down. It's growing, but it's like this growing. I was like, it stinks, you know? Right. So we want to diversify and put some money in some other things. And so I saw that. So I did the boot camp for 3 days. I was in the maybe second week of January. Signed up for the coaching program. It was a $25,000 mentorship program. So I did that and, just started learning as much as I could. Because when I see something I want to do it, I'm going to learn it. Like I said, sure. I'm going to pay for the boot camp. I'm going to pay for it. You're going to pay for the education no matter what you do. It doesn't matter who you are. You're going to pay in dollars and real life experience, or you can learn from somebody else and use their mistakes, or their knowledge and their tools and their network. So I did that. I don't recommend it. I would say that, to you now as far as that $25,000 one. But after 5 months in and following the system of the programs, I still didn't have any multifamily properties, because what I think the companies like that are more into education. Right. They're more into selling education, I should say. And it's a giant funnel. It's hindsight being what it is. It's a phenomenal business model. If you're on that side of it. So, it's the...
People ask us why we don't charge for our stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, well, what is the product?
Right.
Right. The education is not our product. Yep. What is it that we do? We are brokers. We help people buy and sell real estate. So for the reason why we do it is we want to help improve their standard of living so they can improve their standard of giving. But in the meantime, we're helping them broker those deals. So when you just have to figure out what is the motivating factor? What are they getting paid for? And if they're giving it away for free, they're getting something from you. And if you're paying, be careful that model is that you are sometimes paying twice.
Yeah.
Because you're paying you pay for the education and then you go do it in the real world, which is actually the real education. And by the way, you're going to make the mistakes and pay for it then. So then you have to decide how invested do I want to be before I jump in, and that's, nobody can answer that for you, right? Now, at any point today, I'm talking my head off here. If you have questions about any of the things that we're talking about, stop us and ask, right? Because it's important for you. If we trigger something for you, let us know, because that's what we're all about. Of course, Tommy, what would you like to ask?
I think it's common for folks who started residential and then decided that would scale, that they're investing the time, the team, et cetera. If you could share, talking about lessons learned and mistakes, if you could do anything differently that would have gotten you to this place.
Yeah, faster.
I would completely avoid the whole 2008 crash. I'd have gotten here a lot faster if it wasn't for that, because that was
economies.
That was if you digging out, years from that. I wouldn't have been as leveraged. So don't over leverage yourself. That was something I learned the hard way there. That was a hard, tough, long fought lesson to bail yourself out of. Don't get greedy, So you see deals that are just
They look too good.
they look, and some of them are and some of them aren't. But they're and some of it's just market timing. It really is. So if you're using leverage to do that stuff, don't over leverage yourself. Keep money on the sidelines for something. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Keep some dry powder. So that's, I think.
Can I add one thing to that too? That sometimes those classes that you take, they learned their lessons in a different market, and they're telling you that it's going to apply, and it actually doesn't. Are we seeing that in this market today?
Sure.
Right? There are. You were talking about fix and flips is a perfect example. You can go and take a class from somebody who does fix and flips, and they're going to be touting these big numbers. But in our market, right this second, how hard is it even to find something that pencils out at all, right? It's really difficult. So you can say, yeah, those principles were true in that market, and we're not saying that they were lying. You just got to use your brain and make sure, like you said, that when you're doing your underwriting, that you're very careful for the specific market that you're in.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and that's one of the education things I did learn from the mentorship, the $25,000 one, is the system and what they do is pretty much what everybody else teaches you to do. Identify a market, go to the market, find a property manager, find an attorney, build some relationships with brokers. The drill there. And that's target your market, and then you identify that market, know everything there is about that market, and that's what they taught me in underwrite. So I get the deals, and you get them coming in, you underwrite. And where it started falling apart for me on that particular education piece and the way that worked is that, okay, you identify a market. Well, here's the 2 markets identified. Great. You're talking with my coach twice a month. I got 2 whole 30-minute phone calls, not even Zoom phone calls for about $25,000. So you talk with them and you identified your market. You've got a couple brokers. They're sending you deals, stuff like that. What's your criteria? What are you buying? What's your buy box? Okay, well, you want to buy 80 units to 150 units, 200 units. That's where you want to be. You want to value add. You want C properties in a B market. Okay, great, cool. This is what I'm doing. That's what I'm hunting for. Okay, now how many deals am I going to have to underwrite before I get one of those deals to happen? Well, first they said about 60. You have to underwrite about 60 deals to get one. And then it turns out, and they're saying, it may take you about 100 deals of underwriting before you find that one good deal. I was like, okay, so great. I'm looking at Chattanooga, Tennessee. I need 100 deals to look at in Chattanooga between 80 and 150 units. That's easily doable. It's going to take me 36 years to buy a property. You know what I mean? If these are my criteria and stuff. So that's where that philosophy started falling apart for me and what they were doing. So I found some other groups online, some mentorship programs that were online. They're a monthly fee based, my first million in multifamily. They had this thing called the Deal Room. And I don't know if you've heard of Jennings Smith, anyone? He has a podcast. It's really good. He does some really good stuff. Entertaining guys, good stuff. And I'd came across one of his podcasts because I'm listening, taking in everything. And I was going to conferences in Scottsdale, not SVN, but one of the conferences they had out there. I went to Peak Performance down in Orlando with Tyler Devereaux and them. Some other ones, Jake and Gino. Some went to Rod Cleef. So if there was a conference I was going to, because I wanted to learn this business. That's right. Yeah. So, I'd heard about this thing on a podcast called, this deal. I got this deal. There's a deal room. I'm like, there's a room where you can get deals? Where is this room? What is that? And I'm looking for this deal. I was like, man, I've been banging my head against the wall, working with brokers, underwriting crap all day long. I was like, this stinks, So I got into the deal room, and it was a $400 a month membership to sign into the deal room. And they have this deal sprint where it's a small group of about 8 people that sprint 6 weeks. So within 2 weeks of being in the group, you get your first deal sprint. So I sign up, and I'm in this deal sprint. There's no cost for it. It's just part of the membership thing there. And we're sitting there chatting every day, and everybody's calling each other. You got objectives each week to do, and this is what you need to do this week.
You're really getting into it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So
exciting.
It was awesome. And then within that first deal sprint, I was in my first 30-unit JV deal. And that was, so you're talking about 7 months of a $25,000 coaching membership, and talking about less than, $397 a month for a month and a half is what I paid that I'm in my first JV deal now for 30 units. So it's a big difference. It's about the room and the network and being in those rooms and doing it from that avenue. It's.
So what do you own right now?
I have total about 710 units we did in our first year. And I don't like that metric of stuff. I don't think I could care less if you have 700 doors or 70 doors.
Well, I'm actually not asking about the number of units, more along the lines of what kinds of real estate do you own? Where do you own it? How long have you owned it? How long do you plan to own it?
Right. So all of it's within a year because I just bought my first one in July we closed.
Okay.
So 30 unit JV deal there. I've got another 134 unit that's LP. It's actually my first deal I closed on was an LP deal as an investor with some guys that Jordan's in business with. And it's more like those are because of people I met locally at an event. I met Jordan at an event, came to his comic creators, and went to the 7-figure multifamily at the Marriott here. Mm-hmm. So I went to that and actually ended up sitting beside Scott Emsley, who has done some deals back. He went to East Carolina and lived there. That's where I went to school. That's where I grew up. Mm-hmm. So he had some properties in Greenville and was doing some property in Jacksonville, North Carolina, which is where my best friend from high school lives. So I knew the area.
I'm not sure. I think everybody in our audience knows what the difference between an LP and a GP is, right? Everybody in this room. And if you don't, let us know because we do education on that, and we can certainly invite you and send you some information on that. I just don't want to. Right. We use so many acronyms in what we do that if you're just new and trying to learn, it's like it literally is learning another language, right? So what with your deals that you've done so far this year, where are they located?
They are in Alaska, Anchorage.
All of them?
No, one is in Alaska. Okay. That's a JV deal. That was second actual deal. I guess the first one's in Jacksonville, North Carolina, 134 unit. That's LP. It's passive. That was done from a self-directed IRA. So put that money into the funds to do that. Second was a JV deal. That's in Anchorage, Alaska. It's
so why Anchorage?
The team. It's more about the people and the team. You know, I certainly wasn't beating the brokers up in Anchorage, Alaska. I asked them to send me over their deals.
Well, that's what I was asking. I was like, now how in the heck did you even find it? And then what possessed you to...
Yeah, it was about the people that were doing the deal. You know, the people I met in the other rooms. And one thing is I wanted to get involved in the deal as a JV. So these guys were already going to close the deal. They already had the deal. They were going to close. Somebody backed out. So they had a JV spot open up. And I was like, yeah, send me what you got. Let me take a look. I liked what was there as far as the numbers wise. Of course, it's... July there at the time. Looks beautiful. It's nice. Now they've got 100 inches of snow this winter so far. It's a much different story. But, you know, it's been an awesome project because I think this is one of the things where you learn a lot, you know. Yeah. But there was local people there. There were boots on the ground. So you had a couple workers that were there.
That's important.
They already had a relationship with property manager, local property manager there.
There's another one that's important.
So, and the asset manager already knew from some other stuff we were looking at and just from that group. So I knew they were going to be asset managing and they already had 1,700 doors.
So your team was already rock solid.
Right. I went with the team, right? It was, I started using the method of who, not how versus the whole go out there and beat tours and call brokers and do that. Nothing wrong with that. Everybody's got a different thing. Absolutely. Yeah. It's for me, I was at a different stage where I was old enough and had enough financial wherewithal and security that I could invest in properties versus having to buy and find properties. Like for some of the guys in the deal, their part of the deal is they find the property, they're working there, they live there. So that's their portion of the JV is that they're boots on the ground, they're local, and that's what they did. And that's fantastic. Sure. I love to support that, you know, financially wise. So that's where I got into the JV deal, but I'm in a couple of LPs. Building 56,000 square foot of storage outside of Charlotte. That's in the path of progress, and it was great to, like I said, I'm just in the learning mode. Right. So it was great learning about the studies on, you know, how much can they still, you know, how much storage is available here, how much can you do, what's coming on the market. Right. So having those studies done and seeing what's available, that was great. So now we're learning the building process.
So did you do the studies or did you pay to have those studies done?
Yeah, I'm a check writer. Yeah, absolutely. I'll review what they review. You know, I'm what you call ambitiously lazy. I work really hard not to have to work really hard.
There you go. Actually, I have siblings that are that way. I recognize that in many times. Yeah. Well, I think he said some really important things, don't you? Yeah.
You mentioned one of the lessons from OA was not over leveraged, obviously. I'm curious how you define, like, how do you figure out if you're over leveraged or if you are properly levered? How do you process that?
That's keeping money on the sideline. Okay, don't put all your stuff into one deal. or any number of deals, doesn't matter how many it is, but have, like I said, keeping the dry powder, being over leveraged in the fact that there was so many loans on there. The only way it worked was based on, right, no liquidity at all left. That's over leveraged in my opinion, you know, so, and then the fact that the only way they worked was based on this future value of stuff. So if a hiccup came along,
No something allowed.
right, so it's over leveraged, you know, as far as when you're buying, you got a bank willing to loan you, loan to cost, and it's this number, and it makes sense. But the same token, if it's just based on the value and the work, you know, it's market shifts at all or whatever, well, you're at loan to cost now, not loan to value. So that's your issue. You owe money to the bank on top of this. So that's where the leverage aspect is. Yeah. And that's what happens in like 08, where lots of people multifamily, like, yeah, with multifamily stuff, they're over leveraged, you know, which is fantastic buying, but you got to make sure, get some dry powder, you know, get some money on the side to be able to capitalize on those deals.
Well, and I think we're seeing that mainly because they did get a little greedy and they went with those variable interest rates, and a lot of those interest rates that are variable on, you know, interest only and short term, and now they're trying to refi and they are screwed.
Yeah.
They are really screwed. But I'm seeing that banks are trying to work with them. They've learned from 08 and
You don't want the property.
they don't want the properties either, right? So they're trying to be, we are seeing that tsunami of the CMBC loans, but it's we thought it was going to be a big wave, and it's kind of like a moderate wave, you know, but we anticipate that it's going to be coming. So keep your powder dry, right? And if you have the opportunity to get educated, now is a really, really good time to do that.
For sure.
So if you were a young investor in this room and you were going to be doing a JV for the first time, what advice would you give them? JV.
Yep. JV would be to really vet the team, know who you're working with. You know, that's the key there. For me in a situation, I mean, I could throw some money in that first JV deal there, and if I lost all of it, it wouldn't really matter for what I was putting in. But as a young investor, I would have been a lot more hesitant, concerned about that, you know. So that's the thing, is know the people you're going to business with, know what the deal is. So you may not have learned underwriting. Like if I hadn't have done 6 months of underwriting deals and looking at things when they sent over the stuff to look at, I wouldn't know what I was looking at. You know what I mean? You got to know that stuff. I mean, so everybody can't be as smart as Tommy is. Tommy's brilliant. You know what I mean? I've said copy with him a couple of times. He's, you know, dazzles me with the things he knows, you know, but the key is find people that are smarter than you. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. So surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, that know what they're doing. And there were people involved in that first JV deal that they had, if you want to talk units, I mean, they had the asset manager's got 1,700 units, and there's, you know, people that are looking to acquire literally in Anchorage, Alaska, because the guy's wife's a doctor and they're in Alaska. So there's things there, and yes, it's about the team.
What they were doing, and they knew the area. They just wanted a little extra money. And
yep, because somebody backed out. Yeah, and they wanted to keep it as a JV deal. They wanted to have to raise funds. So I was like, yeah, and I want to learn. I'd love to be on the inside. So, you know, I'm on a couple calls every week with that property and learning a lot about snow. Jesus.
So what is for you, the biggest differences that you were important between doing a JV deal and an LP and a GP? Have you done a GP? Have you been a GP?
I am on with a GP deal right now.
Okay, so talk about, for you, the differences and the roles that you're playing in those different.
Gotcha. On the JV stuff, I do the finance. I'm on the finance committee and then the asset management committee. So I participate in those calls on a weekly basis. On the LP deal, you're just putting money in. You're completely passive, which is, in my opinion, if I could do anything in the world, I'd have a crap ton of money and be nothing but a passive investor. If I could just LP my way into a cash flow of this amount of volume, that is what you would want to do, in my opinion, because that's what you call mailbox money, beach money, whatever you want to call it there. But if you have enough money to invest in enough deals and all they do is send you a check, but the LPs typically own 50 to 70% of the deal. So they're getting, you know, prep equities. They're getting paid out first. There's things to look for as an LP. But so the LP deals all of them I'm involved with, there's at least a prep of eight plus prep. And then I would also, and then learning as far as an investor, what I was looking to invest in was the shorter time frames. It's like there's 5-year holds, 6-year holds, 3-year holds, and I'm looking for about the velocity of money for me. So I prefer deals that are 3 years. I also prefer investing now in stuff that is some earnest money deposit into some deals. And that is that, they larger deals, they raise the earnest money because it may be $250,000, $300,000, $400,000. And you may have money in hard cost up front or cost up front before the deal even closes, attorneys, syndication attorneys, fees, all that stuff, the earnest money. So they'll go out and raise those funds and have investors, and that's I'm invested in one now. And it's what I love about that is that deal's supposed to close in April. When it closes, I get my money back, but I still get my general partnership percentage. So I still own the property as long as the life of the property is there. So I get the quarterly payouts, I'll get the monthly payouts. When they refinance in 2 years, I get a percentage of that. When they sell, I get a percentage of that. But my money was only tied up for 6 months. I could put that money into another deal. Same with the shorter hold periods, like one of the LPs.
That's pretty great.
It is fantastic. It is called risk capital for a reason.
Know and trust that team.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah,
multifamily deals for the past year have been blowing up right before closing for various reasons.
that's right.
And so when you're writing that, are you doing hard money EMD or?
Not right out of the gate, no. Yep. That I would probably avoid.
Quite a...
Yeah, and there's still ways to get out of that too with the right contract. There's ways to get out of that with the right contract, but then it's a legal battle. So it is the team that's involved with that, and it's about knowing the team and how they're going to structure that money. Like they're not going to just go out there and blow money. If they're doing studies or doing things, they're going to do that up front. They're going to do it in increments. They're funding $5,000 for this or stuff, and you want to see that. And I get those accounting things accounting for the funds that are being used as they're being used. Because I want to know that and see what their stuff. And their goal is not to have to. They don't want to lose anybody's money either. That's their job on the deal. Is they want to keep doing deals and build bigger. So their job is their only job is to really manage your money and what to do. Because if they don't have a job anymore. Yep.
You said on the multifamily side, your first acquisition was July. Is that right?
Yes.
Have you found? It sounds like it, but have you found that after being the first one under your belt, you kind of full the time now, or more opportunities are coming to you quicker? Does that help you to have the first one to gain the credibility or experience to get other attractive deals? Have you noticed a correlation?
Yes, probably for a different reason though. I have noticed that with some of the guys I do invest with. That has certainly been the case for them from a perspective of you've got the confidence now. Brokers see that you can close the deal now, which is huge. They see that you can actually fulfill your obligation close. So that avenue will attract more business. From an investor side, once people hear that you have money to invest, you get all the deals you want to look at. Trust me, they just come to you. Hey, would you invest in this, invest in this, invest in this?
Once they hear that you do it and you can close, that you are seasoned and accredited,
everybody wants money. Yeah. Capital makes the world go round. So everybody's raising capital. So,
Steve, you mentioned that 8% preferred return. Can you talk a little bit more about the capital stack and the preferred return, and if you're a limited partner, some of the things you might want to look for?
It's a really good question.
It is. It's a pretty technical question too. But 8% pref means that if you have a preferential return there, you're getting paid first. So you get the first 8% out of the deal. So if they refinance, sell, any cash that comes in, if it's making money, you're getting the first 8% or 10% or 12%. And when we're structuring down in Orlando right now, it can go up to 15%, depending on what they put in. But that's a fund. So it really just depends on, some of them are stacked that way. Most of these are just a straight 8% pref on that. No matter what, as long as you're at the minimum threshold investment there, I think it's $100,000. So as long as you're at that, as long as there's the profit there, you're getting the first 8%. That's what the pref is. So anything else comes after that, it usually just depends on the amount of money you invested in the deal.
So how vigilant are you when you're in the LP's position? Are you as you were saying, I'm watching and I'm looking at all this stuff. So are you that guy that's going to be super vigilant, or do you let them just do their, on an LP?
LP deal, I don't, they're going to do what they're going to do on that as a passive for a reason. I only have so much say you can do.
Sure.
They're operationally running. You trusted, this is your side. You have a separate LLC for your LP portion. You're protected. You're not worried about this, but it's their deal. I mean, they're running the GP side of it. You could, if you were a large enough LP, I'm sure you could step in and force to handle something, but usually you got your loan sponsor. They sign on the debt. You got their asset managers, the people are running they're running the show. You don't really have a lot to say. That's why it's passive and it's LP.
Just I had a follow-up question. I've heard a lot of talk about rescue capital. When that happens, obviously the GP could make that decision. What happens to the preferred return?
Screwed. I mean, you could lose.
Precedence over.
Oh yeah. The rescue capital, they're coming in rescue.
Call.
Yeah. Yeah. If your current LP partners, that'd be your first call. It's like you're running a deal with your GP and it's going to fall apart. Your first call would be to your existing LP partners to say, hey, guys, we're coming up short. We need an extra $250 to keep this floating until we get the leases up or finish the work or whatever it is. And if they can't put that, their only other option, I mean, is the rescue capitals and come in and say, look, we're going to come in, we're going to fund this, we're going to do this, but we're going to take this percentage of the LP or the GP.
Yeah.
It's going to be watered down. So now they're going to own those shares. And so you're not really out or screwed, but you want that too as an LP. If you don't have the money to put in, you're an LP and she doesn't have the money, she's a GP, that rescue capital is like, hey, I'd rather, hey, you slice this pie up as many ways as you want to slice it because I don't want to lose my pie, the whole thing. So I'd rather have a, slice of watermelon than a whole grape. So that's what you do.
So I think when I'm talking about being vigilant on the LP side, I'm not just talking because there's always going to be that guy that thinks they have way more power than they do. Right. But I think that I'm more implying about the learning of it. I think perhaps now you don't because you know so much and you have the ability to spot when there's irregularities or inconsistencies. But I would recommend that even on not participate in the sense that you can't make any judgment calls or anything, but for heaven's sakes, learn.
I look at everything.
And look at everything.
I can't do anything about it. No. I'm not on the weekly calls, but I'm all the investor relations letters, things like that.
Right.
Anything they send out, I'm looking through, looking over. So I
think there's a really big fallacy that when we talk about investment in commercial real estate and they say passive, right? So I think that's a really popular thing to say in social media, et cetera. And I think that having it be passive, there may be things that you could buy, but most of them are not real estate related. That if you're not paying attention to what it is, what happens, right? There's just too many people that are dishonest and, not that we want that for anybody, but that you have to pay attention. Got to follow the money and you got to keep learning, right? So let's talk about that. How do you vet your people when you're choosing them for your team? So let's talk about some of the ways that you've done your homework, because I think that's important.
You just ask them. Just kidding. You don't. They'll tell you what.
Do you suck? Are you dishonest? When's the last time you ripped somebody off? No. Do you think they're going to tell you that?
This way is talking to other people. It's really going to be word of mouth. You can Google search. You can check things for Google. I try not to hold people's past against them per se, unless they were a full-fledged criminal or something like that. Sure. That's a different ballgame. Everybody has hiccups. You're in the real estate business or the mortgage or whatever you're in. If you've done that, every now and then a deal is going to fall to crap. It's reality. If you don't think it is, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's just unless you just do one deal in your life, chances are something's going to fall apart. But really, it's just asking around and finding other people. If you're going to, I had 2 deals I invested in Dallas. One was a multifamily. It was a couple hundred unit multifamily deal syndication, and one was a office to multifamily conversion. That was a beautiful project, beautiful property. I wanted that deal so bad as an investor because it was Class A office space. Still had $500,000 in leases that were going to be there. We're only converting one of the towers, and we're getting it for $58 a square foot. 58 bucks. Class A office space in Dallas, $58 a square foot. Beautiful glass building, whole campus. It was like you couldn't build it for anything near that. So that was the key. It was a buy, and plus you still had the tenants. We were convert all the tenants into one building, and then convert the other to multifamily. It was 400,000 square feet, and it's a beautiful deal. But it turns out missed a deadline on something with the contract. The seller just backed out of the deal. So the money wasn't hard or anything. We got the money back. That was no problem. But it was like that was a deal. You're like, stop, man. We want to do office conversion. And that was phenomenal. It was a beautiful property. It was fantastic. And the other was a word of mouth kind of thing. I invested with a group, and somebody from the group I'm with, an asset manager, said, "Hey, look, I just want to let you know I've gotten 8 phone calls this week alone from other GPs and other capital people, and they said they've got 3 projects right now that aren't really working out." So they haven't done capital calls just yet, but it looks like they're going to be making capital calls. So I'm out. I'm backing out of the asset management role in the deal. So you can do what you want to do with that. I was like, well, it's not for me. I don't have to know anybody's stuff. So I just called them up and said, hey, I'm out. Yeah, send me my money back. So they wired it back and got out of that deal. So you definitely want to know. I mean, but that's the kind of thing you can't know. You can't do that kind of research. Like I can't jump on Google all of a sudden and figure out that this guy's not really paying how he should be paying, or the deal's not going the way it's supposed to be going, unless it's been reported somehow. And most of the time that's not done that way. But other investors, they know that because they're like, wait, we're supposed to get a check this quarter. What's going on? Or he's getting calls like, well, we're kind of, running behind. This is happening. So that's where, it's good to know people in the industry and to do that. And you want to do the research there. But all signs point this was a great deal and a great group of people.
You have your sweat GPs, the ones that are in there doing all the deal, and you got to watch them.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's the only thing they've got in it. Yeah. And that's when you be very, very careful. I don't like to see that.
I like money to be.
I want them to be.
Deals. Yeah.
But even if it's some money, it doesn't have to be a ton of money, but I want to see that there's going to be an ouch for them if it doesn't work. Yeah. So if you're new to the business, that's something that you want to really pay attention to is what is the ouch for them?
Yeah.
To get out.
Yeah, if they walk away from the deal, if they had a sponsor sign the loan.
Yeah.
Where's the downside for them, other than the fact that everybody hates them?
Well, let's talk about that. What kind of funding do you use now? Do you use with your deals? Are you using like you used IRA? That is a tricky fun thing to do with banks. We actually do them a lot, but
right.
Not a lot of brokers are familiar with
right.
how to work out of a 401k or a.
Yeah, it's the self-directed IRA part. That's fortunately they already had a relationship with a self-directed IRA company, Equity Trust, and so that was smooth and easy.
Yeah,
it was. And I'd used them before, and I have some other self-directed IRAs I use for different things. But so that part was easy. That now we just use funds that we have.
Okay, so you self-fund?
So not the deals. Now my investment's in the deals.
Okay.
So even whether it's a JV or the GP side, that's just funds that we have available to do.
So your cash injection, but the deals themselves have their own.
Yep, they have loan sponsors. I don't sign on any debt, and I'm not going to. I don't have any plans.
That's actually what I was trying to get to.
There's loan sponsors. There's usually somebody brought in for that particular aspect, and like the JV deal we just closed a couple weeks ago. That's a RV marina campground up in Illinois, about an hour east of Chicago, actually. It's on the river, great project, phenomenal returns, which, this is a JV partner we partnered with on that, who's in a group online with us there. He lives there, and he stayed at this campground before with his RV, and he had gone by, and he was out. He's in the active phase of looking for properties, looking for deals, talking to people. So he actually went there. He had stayed there before. He was going to stay again, and he saw the owner there and asked him if they ever thought about selling it. Well, the owner is 88 years old, and his son helps him run it, and he's in his 60s. So he was like, yeah, we're thinking about selling it. So it was a great deal. It was a little mom-and-pop deal, yeah. And he kept a $100,000 second. The bank funded 80%. I kept my investment under 10% of the ownership role, so I didn't have to sign on the debt because I didn't want to do that, and I'm not going to. So whatever the numbers work out for, I'm not going to obligate myself for the debt. So, but he's actually taking his RV as a general contractor. He took his RV there, and he's going to live there for the next year to oversee the renovations and stuff. But that's a 49% IRR on it. It's refinance year 2. I get my money back, and then when they sell in probably around the 5-year period, it's a cash cow. Those businesses there's not a lot of overhead, but it's one of the only ones in the area that's on the river. And the people that rent there, there's 77 of them that are seasonal. They come there every year. Some of them have built their own docks on the river out of their pocket. There's 30 docks on the river that they built, just the renters. There's building structures they built to move their RVs and park under. They built that out of their, so those people aren't going anywhere, But this guy hasn't raised rents or kept the place up at all because he's in his 80s. It doesn't matter. All he does is collect the checks and doesn't really do anything for the property at all. So we've told him the rents are going up. They're like, hey, if we're getting value from it, great, because the bathroom facilities suck, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. You get a whole laundry list, and that was one of the good things about
You're like,
them staying. Yes.
value add.
Absolutely.
Value add.
So we had more spots. We had 20 a year for the next few years. And it's just going to be, it'll be a fun project. And everything I've done thus far is for a learning experience. It's, I don't, with the RV aspect, self-storage.
Challenged with the new.
Yes, you want to learn it. That's my thing, is to figure out where do I want to be. I made that mistake with college. I won't call it a mistake, but, going to studying to be a mechanical engineer and getting out of school and getting your first engineering job and figuring out, well, this sucks. That's a little late in the game, but it sucked. So I went back to school and studied finance, but that's, how do you know that until you do it? So if I could have gotten an engineering job first, I wouldn't have gone to school for engineering. But, at least in this business, I'm learning through the avenues I can get into, and I want to learn the type of deals to figure out where I want to be. So the one will close on April, that's a hotel conversion, 170 door keys converted to 190 units.
That actually happened to me. So I worked as a commercial real estate appraiser, and I went through all the education and got right to the point where I had to sign in the dotted line that this is going to be my life forever. And I went, I can't do this. When I figured out that I was going to be a cubicle jockey, writing a templated 75-page math report, rinse, repeat for the rest of my life, I just went, no, I can't. I'm too entrepreneurial, and I have to be stimulated. So it sounds like you and I have very similar personalities in that I need to be challenged, and if I'm not happy. I know that's weird for some of you, but for me, that's a big deal. So fine, we're going to wrap up a little bit here because we are out of time, but I did want to ask one final question on financing. When you're doing these deals, do you care, or does it matter to you whether or not it's agency debt or conventional? Or tell me, when you see those, what does that tickle in you, and what do you do about it?
I mean,
How do you?
see that, but
Okay, that's what I was trying to find out.
a lot of deals won't qualify for that, or the people won't qualify for that, the operators.
Sure.
So I like it because of the terms, the rates,
Right.
and then the length. You can get 30-year amortization. Hey, if you can get a fixed rate for 30 years on an apartment complex, do it. You know what I mean? So a lot of other times like that, you have, bank come in with a you got a 5-year term with a 25-year am. You better do something in 5 years. It might not be adjustable, but you still have a window now. It's 7 year. You do the term as long as you can do it. It's 5, 7. If they'll give you 10, get 10. You know what I mean? If you can get interest only up front, get it. Pay down the debt. Do something with it. You know what I mean? But get that interest only. If they'll give a 1 year, 2 year interest only, take it. And then, so agency debt offers a lot of freedom that way, and better rates. So some of the, our loans, we assumed one of the deals, we assumed financing on it because it was a 30-year deal. They were only 2.5 years into it, fixed for 30 years. So I was like, okay, now that's a pain in the butt in and of itself. Thank God we had automatic extensions built in, because it wasn't anything else but just the agency debt being reviewed. It was like, oh my God. The lender had to go through all the hoops first and approve it, and then they sent it to Fannie Mae, and then we had to wait for weeks for that to get approved. Like, oh my God, why didn't we just go ahead and finance this thing again? But oh yeah, the rate and the term. Oh yeah, okay. So that's the good thing, and what I think I love about this business, every single deal is different. If you can go rehab a house, you may change a kitchen or a bath, something different than you did the last property, different tile, different paint color. It's still the same damn deal over and over and over and over.
Well, and if you really want to make money, you have the warehouse with all the same doors and all the same cabinets. That's how they make money, is that they just stockpile their stuff, and they have their little warehouse, and when it comes to rehab. So it's economies of scale.
Yes.
But I do like to learn. So have you ever used hard money for anything, or?
I have in the past, not on anything for multifamily.
With what's going on in the market right now, besides agency, what is your preference?
Really just a local community bank lender. Yeah, and they're usually the ones going to have the best beat on what's going on, and they're usually give you the best terms. And that's a relationship builder, and usually there's always somebody on the ground wherever I'm investing anyway. Some of them already have that relationship, which is good. But we've got a lot access to some loan sponsors that will sponsor. Some of them can sponsor whatever you want. They can sign on the debt for a $30 million deal if you want them to. But that's a percentage of the deal you're giving away. They can do that, but if that's your only choice, that's what you got to do.
All right, my last question, and then I'll let you, if any of y'all have any questions, but I want you to put on your wizard's hat and look into the crystal ball and tell us what you think is going to be happening in this next year and where you're going to see some opportunities. What should we be looking for if we are especially new to the business? But if you're a seasoned investor, where should we go and put what's in the crystal ball?
Gotcha. I don't really see a lot changing with rates. I know everybody says they're coming down. I'm not sure why they would, other than the fact that if you believe in the political aspect of it, I could see them coming down just to say, hey, we need to keep the current administration, then you might get some rate cuts. But as far as the market goes, I don't really know that it's justifying a rate cut, and then I think they just announced they're not going to cut in March. So I really don't know if the rates will come down. So that's that avenue. They may come down a quarter. Who knows? Don't bank your business on that. The thing to do, I guess, would be really is look at all the stuff that's coming due, like Brian talks about all the time, is that your relationship right now is not just the brokers. It should be the lenders and bankers and people that can cue you in on what's going on and get involved with the groups of people that are, like the online groups I'm in, there's, they're closing 2 or 3 deals a month, different things, different areas, but they're very active and they know the markets they're in. And that's the key there because they know about the people that are in trouble. They know that deals are falling apart. They know what's going on. And that's where your value comes in as an investor because now you can come in and hopefully get that deal. That's what you need to buy. Is you want to buy, you want to buy on the cheap. You want to buy it. I hate it for them, but you want to buy when people they're struggling. You want to buy when there's blood in the streets. You just don't want it to be your blood. So that's
Well, I think that is you make your money on the front end and in truly on the buy.
Yeah,
that is when you make your money. So.
And I would say this next year: do not buy a property simply because you think your value add is rent increases. If that's your only way to buy it, you think the value's going up for rent increases.
Like that way.
Best of luck with that, but don't let that be your only reason to buy. Is because I can jack the rents up to this. It's not happening, guys. That stuff's slowing down already. Nashville's a tough market right now. I don't know anything here, but I just know the market. And it's tough. You got Class A properties giving away 2 months free rent. How are you going to compete with that if you got a B class property that you're wanting to increase rents on? It's like I can stay there for 2 months free. If I average that out, it's cheaper than your place. So you can't, just if that's your only model. Don't do that. Find a value add, a true value add, wherever it is. Find that where you can add value and you can improve, and then you can justify your rent increases, but still don't let your model be just rent increases.
So what other ways would you add value besides rent increase?
Fix up buying older properties. What we really look for is a C property in the B area. Something that's a little older. We're 80s or newer. I'm not looking for 60 stuff. 70s, too much old headache with that and unknowns. But 80s or newer is what I would focus on. I would also say to where you can go in and add stuff, amenities that people like and amenities that people take advantage of, dog parks, cleaning places up. Yeah, people talk about laundry income, stuff like that. That's minuscule. That's nothing. If you can add a laundry facility, that's nice. But if you, as far as retrofitting, putting washer dryers, things like that, not usually worth the cost for, a few $100 here and there. But I would say the value add is just that. It's finding older properties that are just your mom and pop stuff. Pocket listings from brokers if you're buying on that side, Fortunately, I just look for people that are looking to doing all that work, and they just, they bring me the package deal to look at. That's
the silver platters.
Exactly. I said, oh, thank you, or oh, yes, please, let me take a look. But that's as far as going out and building, if you're a brand new investor, man, you gotta have to be hungry. I'll give you one guerrilla marketing tip if I can. That's worked out phenomenal. That a lot of people. We used to market to people out of bankruptcy when I had the mortgage company. And so we'd send them letters. And we also did this with the yellow, you've heard of yellow sheet, you write a handwritten letter, photocopy it.
Letter.
Yep. Send that out to people you're looking to buy the properties from. I'll tell you something that really works, where our response rate went from 2% to 30%. Okay. Was we took a letter, we handwrote the label on it, and we just go to Office Depot, buy some call me while you were out, little phone message pads. And we literally wrote on there, hi, Bob, Steve here, give me a call back at this number. And you would be amazed how many times they call, hey, I'm sorry I missed your call. That's what the note said. Sorry I missed your call. You didn't call, you emailed them a letter, but that's what they see. It triggered a response, and then they called. Literally, our response rate went from 2 to 3% to 30% callbacks.
Nice.
Yes.
That's a really great tip.
Envelope, little pink thing. You don't even have to do anything with it. Just go to Office Depot, and that's what you write your letter on. It's just kind of like the philosophy of the if you send a yellow legal sheet, handwrite a letter on that and send it out, you get a better response rate than just a typed up letter you draft out. Same philosophy with this. It's just literally, I don't know why it works, but people just...
It's a trigger.
It is, yeah. It's like, oh shit, I missed his call. Yes.
So, Uncle G, you know who's Uncle G?
Oh, Grant.
Grant Production.
Socks right here, Liz.
He says not to, one of the mistakes that people make is not invest in real estate. So, for some of us, we try to play it safe. I've been investing since 2015, and I feel like I should be $1 million by now.
Correct.
So, one of the things that keep some of us investors small is because we want to play safe.
Yeah.
What would be your recommendation, if that's the case, to come out of that comfort zone? Because, see, I'll buy a property at a time. I think at one point I have like 8 different properties.
How many? 8. Okay.
And that was back in 2018. So I started getting a little eventually back. So now I'm playing it a lot more safer. I constantly, looking stuff, and I wanted to be cut up on my, I want to play safe in case, if I'm going to lose.
Sure.
The last deal that I did on my own, a lot of people were like, so why do you didn't, if you do have over $1 million deal, why you didn't go to a $6 million deal? Well, that's a little different. When I started raising money for it,
yeah,
I noticed that that's a different, that's a different experience. So what would be your recommendation to, instead of just try to play it safe, be more out there and be taking advantage of everything that's going on? Maybe right now, for some people might be scary, but for some of us, maybe not.
Right. Great question, Santos. The risk for everybody is different.
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard for me to give you an idea of what's risky for you versus what's risky for me, or anybody else in the room that may be looking to buy their first deal. So it's different levels of risk and what your tolerance is. So it's going to be hard to get past that if you're a very analytical, just risk-averse person. I don't know that you will find something like that. You're going to have to either say, I'm going to get over that. I'm going to be willing to take more risk, but it's calculated risk. Everything's risk. I was like, I had this conversation with a guy the other day. It was like, yeah, but it's real estate. So, look, buddy, trust me when I tell you, you can lose money in real estate as easy as you can in something else. You may have some property tied to it, but if you're investing in multifamily stuff, if that property doesn't have any tenants, it's not worth the damn thing. It's not worth the building and the land. You know what I mean? That's not what values them. It's cash flow. So for me, you're going to have to decide for yourself, what do you want? What are you comfortable with risking? And if you're not willing to give it away, don't risk it. That's just a reality for it.
I think that's the key right there.
Yeah. You're going to have to get the confidence to say, I'm to do this, I'm going to take more risks. But don't just throw money out there. Do your research and partner with somebody on it. If you're worried about, the risk aspect of that, find somebody that's doing what you want to do and you partner with them on the deal. And you learn that way. You just invest with them, you learn, you get a percentage, whatever you can get on it, or, split it with them, whatever you need to do. But if, I don't know your experience, what you're talking about there, if it's residential or if you're looking at commercial or multifamily, but your risk tolerance that's a personal question. You know what I mean? I don't know what you got in the bank. I don't know what you can afford to risk or what your cash flow situation's like, but it's going to be, that's going to dictate all of that. So if you're worried about risk and money-wise, then find what you can bring to the table that doesn't involve any money. You go out there and you find some deals, you put some stuff together, you become a connector, and that's what you bring to the table. Like the guy up near Chicago there for our campground. I mean, one of the guys got zero money in it, but he's going to live there for people. You know what I mean? He's like, he's going to live there for a year and do all the groundwork. I'm not going to do that. So kudos to him. That's fantastic. He got his piece of GP. You know what I mean? And another guy's signing on the debt, the whole by himself. So yes, he's getting a percentage. He's getting a percent of that, Jay.
Retire at the RV park, which is what he wanted to do, and he just gets to go fix the bathroom.
Figure out where you fit, that you can come into the thing and add value without necessarily money. If the money is the problem, hang up, then figure out where can Santos fit in this deal and put the deal together. Find it. Work with Janet, work with Brian, work with Donald. Find a deal, and then you bring that deal to the table and you shop that thing out, and you find other people that help you sponsor somebody that's going to close, that'll sign on the deal. They'll sign on it for you based on the fact they're getting this percentage of the debt, or the deal. They're getting a percentage of the thing. They'll sign the debt for you. That's going to be their contribution to it. Then you find you find a property manager you can hire and pay. You find somebody can be asset manager you can pay. out of the deal. So you don't have to put your money into it. If money is what the risk factor is you're worried about, then find ways around that. But you got to be in the room. You got to be in the deal. It's just the rooms are where it happens. I mean, it really is the network. And like this room right here, you guys are in a great spot. Get the education and meet the people, network. I'm an introvert. I was going to tell you, if I go to a big networking event, I'm going to sit right there in my chair usually and just watch the stuff, and I'm out the door. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be that guy standing around outside, chin wagging the whole night, because it's not comfortable for me. It's not what I do. So, I mean, if I know you in this group of people, like I could sit down and talk to Tommy and Jordan out there the rest of the day if they want to sit down and chat, no problem at all. But ultimately that's not my comfort level, my strong suit. But you got to get in the rooms though and meet the people and just make the deals happen.
Well, so we've learned some really important things from you. We've learned that you got to keep learning, right? That markets change, segments, every segment is different, and that keeping up on that and focusing not only on the property types and things like that, but learning about people and how to judge people, right? And you have to keep that learning on the underwriting, right?
Yep.
So that's important. We learned that agency debt is great if you can get it, but if you can't, then go with the very next best thing, and you just keep going to the next best thing that you can get to, right? Don't be afraid to make mistakes when you're young, but get in there and do it and make those mistakes. That's what we learned from you. But we also learned that it's really a lot easier if you have a W-2 job that is making money for you to be bankable, right? That's something that he did when he was younger to start that process. And then once he got into it, then he learned how to do that. We also learned that sometimes you just got to go.
You do.
Sometimes you just make that, and you've made some mistakes, and then you've pulled out, or
That's right.
So it's not going to be a smooth ride the whole time. What are some of the other things that you learned? What else did you learn today?
Or any questions? Tommy?
You got to walk up your new AC units when you're flipping houses in East Nashville.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. You need to know that. Well, and you need to have contractors that you can trust.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's probably a really important thing you learned today, is that don't be thinking that you're going to just scale immediately without having those relationships in place. Remember when we started this meeting, I said, investing is a team contact sport. Who is on your team? So those are all really great things that we've learned today. Can you give this guy a big round of applause?